Hi, and welcome to this video where I talk about my top 10 TV shows of 2017. TV, I think, is probably my favorite form of entertainment to watch. I like movies, I like reading books, but TV is where it's at for me. I like to watch a lot of TV, more TV than any human probably should. I normally don't have a goal for amount of TV shows I want to watch for the year, but I think I watched around like 61 shows this year. I don't know. And I loved a lot of TV shows, so it was super hard to narrow it down to just 10. So I do have a lot of honorable mentions, and I have 2 guilty pleasures. So let me just start with the honorable mentions. The Orville, Season 1 on Fox. RuPaul's Drag Race, Season 9 on Logo TV. 13 Reasons Why, Season 1 on Netflix. The Flash, Seasons 3 and 4 on the CW. Timeless, Season 1 on NBC. And A Series of Unfortunate Events, Season 1 on Netflix. Now let's talk about my guilty pleasures. I said I have 2, and the first one I'm going to talk about is boy band. This was a new summer reality TV show on ABC that I kind of fell in love with. It started off a little bit rocky, but once it found its rhythm, I was completely hooked. I love boy bands. It's one of my favorite music genres, and I will always love it. So I was so happy that we got this new reality show that was basically just like trying to create the next hot big boy band. I found it super fun. I was like rooting for my favorites the whole time. I even called in and voted one time. During all the performances, I was like cheering, clapping along. Thank God no one watched me do this, because that would have been embarrassing. But yeah, no, I absolutely loved this show. It was not a great show, but I loved it so much, and I'm happy with the band that was created from this. I follow all of them on Instagram. And then my second guilty pleasure is Girl Meets World. I watched all 3 seasons this year, and it only has 3 seasons because they canceled it this year, which I'm very upset about because I actually truly loved this show. So this is a spin-off to the show Boy Meets World, where if you don't know that show, it was a classic 90s TV show that was just the bomb. So I was really excited for Girl Meets World because in Girl Meets World we follow Corey and Topanga's daughter, Riley, as she just goes through like middle school and high school with her friends and her family, helping her along the way. It wasn't anything compared to Boy Meets World. Like Boy Meets World will always be like #1, but this I still very much enjoyed. It was just such a cute, wholesome show that had a lot of heart to it, and I ended up watching this show, like all 3 seasons, 3 times this year because I loved it so much. Watching these just made me feel so happy, and it's one of those shows where when you're an adult you kind of don't like being an adult, so you watch kids shows to make yourself feel like a kid again, so you don't have the weight of adulthood on your shoulders. And that's what this show did for me. But it also had a lot of life lessons throughout the show that I was still learning as an adult. So it also kind of helped me not only escape being an adult, but it also helped me to just learn things about life that I'm still continually learning every day. I laughed, I cried, I got so invested in these characters and their lives, and it was just, I loved it so much. So I know it's a kid's show, but I loved it, so that's why it's a guilty pleasure. Alright, now let's finally get into the top 10. At number 10, I have Schitt's Creek. This is on the TV channel Pop, I believe. It's a Canadian show, that's all I really know. So I'm assuming Pop is like a Canadian channel? I don't know. But I watched all 3 seasons of this show on Netflix because it is available on Netflix, and it is one of the funniest shows ever. This is a half-hour comedy about the Rose family, who are incredibly rich, and one day they find themselves incredibly broke. And the only thing they have left to their name is a town that Mr. Rose bought as a joke, and the town is called Schitt's Creek. And so that's where they live in a motel and just try to figure out how to get their money back. But it is hysterical because they're all like super rich people in a dumpy town. The jokes are kind of what make the show, and they're so sharp and witty and just super funny, but the characters are also super great, and it's a great storyline as well. But I think what I love most about this show is that it has some representation that you don't often see in the media, like TV shows, movies, even books. You don't see it much, but we have a pansexual character. I love that they don't make that his like main quality. That's just kind of like, oh yeah, that's just the thing about him, but like, this is him and he's great. And so I love that they don't make that his main quality, but they do have that representation, and they explain it so well too. One of my favorite scenes in TV history, I think, is the wine metaphor scene in this show where they use wine to explain pansexuality, and it's brilliant. And at number 9, we have American Vandal, season 1 on Netflix. This is one of those shows where I wasn't going to expect too much from it. I was going to expect to like laugh at it, but I wasn't expecting what I got from it. And oh my goodness, this is not a mockumentary, but it's filmed like a documentary, but it's a parody of like the true crime genre. So we follow this kid, Dylan, who got expelled from school because they believe he drew some inappropriate images on 27 faculty cars. And everyone thinks he did it. Dylan is all like, I didn't do it, blah, blah, blah. And the guy who's making the documentary, one of the other students in the school, also doesn't think he did it and thinks he's being framed. So he's making this documentary to kind of get evidence and clues to clear his name. It's not only hysterical, but it is just so thorough, and you find yourself at the end of every episode thinking it's someone else who drew the dicks. Basically that's what it was. Someone spray painted penises all over faculty's cars. You don't know who drew the dicks. The whole time you're watching the show, you're like, who drew the dicks? The way they just weave all the clues together, and the storyline, because it's not just about who drew the dicks, it's also about the director and his friend and Dylan and their lives and how they're being affected by making this documentary and how it's affecting their friendships. This picture right here is probably what I looked like the entire time watching this show. At number 8, I have The Handmaid's Tale, season 1 on Hulu. I do not have a Hulu account, but I do have friends that have Hulu accounts, so I find ways to watch my Hulu shows. And I'm so happy I got a chance to watch this one because, oh my god, this was an intense TV show. This is based off of a book by Margaret Atwood called The Handmaid's Tale, and it's about this like dystopian world that's not too far off from our own, where there's like environmental issues, there's just a lot of problems going on. But the main problem we follow is the declining birth rate. Women aren't very fertile anymore, so they've created handmaids, which are fertile women who are forced into like sexual slavery. And we follow this main handmaid, Offred, who is the handmaid for the commander. She's trying to like survive, but also try to find her daughter and join this rebellion of the handmaids. And it's just, it's very intense and can be kind of graphic at times, but it's just a show that's impossible to ignore, and it's so well done, so well done. The acting, I think, is definitely what sells this show. The acting is absolutely incredible. Elizabeth Moss as Offred does such a great job, especially because she has a lot of scenes where she doesn't have a lot of dialogue too, so you only can like read her face, and just her expressions alone can tell you exactly what she's thinking, and it is incredible. And the story, there's just so much power in it that you're just so engaged the entire time, and this show is just honestly a work of art and amazing. At number 7, I have The Office. I watched all 9 seasons this year because they were all available on Netflix, but this was an NBC show. This show, I believe, came out in like the early 2000s, but I watched it now, and I am so happy I did. I binge watched it all, I think within like a month. I don't know how I had that much time on my hands, but this is a half-hour comedy filmed documentary style, so it's kind of more like a mockumentary where we follow a bunch of these people in an office for a paper company, and it's just filled with crazy characters, crazy shenanigans, inappropriate behavior, and oh my goodness, it is just such a funny show. But at the core of the show, it does have a big heart, because you do truly get invested in these characters and their lives and their drama and just everything about them. You want them to do well. Even when they constantly screw up, you just want them to do well. My favorite part was definitely watching Jim and Pam's relationship evolve throughout the 9 seasons, because they went through a time. And I also love that they were like the moral compass of the show, because all the characters are crazy in their own different way, but Jim and Pam were definitely like the normal people. Although I definitely loved watching Jim's pranks on Dwight. That was fun. I just had an absolute blast watching this show. At number 6, we have Future Man, season 1 on Hulu. This just came out in November. I finally got a chance to watch it when I went home for the holidays. I'm so glad I watched it, because I not only watched this because a certain someone by the name of Josh Hutcherson is in it. As we all know, he is my #1 celebrity crush. I also watched this because Seth Rogen produced this, and I also believe he wrote it a little bit too, and I do enjoy Seth Rogen's comedy. It's very crass, but it is hysterical. And this show just had such a very cool concept. It's kind of like a sci-fi comedy, which you don't see often, about a janitor who really loves playing video games, and one night he beats this video game and then it comes to life and he now has to save the world. It's so fun, and there's a lot of like time traveling in it too, and there's a lot of pop culture references, and I thought the characters were just so great in this show as well. They had really great character transformations and really great character arcs from the first episode to the last episode. My favorite definitely being Wolf. He's not only my favorite character, but he definitely had my favorite character transformation as well, from, you know, coming from a video game and trying to like learn the 21st century life and what it's like, and trying to adapt to it, and it's, oh my god, he is just hysterical. There's a lot of action in this show as well that really just kept the story going along, and it had really great pacing. But the action scenes were not just like super action-packed, but they were hilarious too, because the action scenes play out like video game action scenes. Like when you're fighting in a video game, that's kind of like how the fights were in the show. That's the best way I could describe it without giving away too much of it. But it was really funny and super well done. It just kept getting better and better and better throughout the episodes. And I cannot wait for season 2. Hopefully my friend will let me borrow his Hulu again so I can watch it. At number 5, we have The Good Place. I watched seasons 1 and 2, and this is a half-hour comedy on NBC about Eleanor Shellstrop, who has died and gone to the good place. But she is a terrible person and she belongs in the bad place, but for some reason they got her mixed up with another Eleanor Shellstrop that is supposed to be in the good place, but she doesn't want them to know because she wants to stay in the good place. She does not want to go to the bad place. So she teams up with her soulmate to try to teach her how to be a good person. It's, again, another show that has witty humor, but it's also very like snappy dialogue, and the like characters are flawed, but yet you root for them. And the visuals too, it's so colorful and so like whimsical, and it kind of reminds me of like the visuals of Pushing Daisies. And I mean the plot twist at the end too, I am not giving anything away, but that plot twist, I don't think anyone saw that coming, because I certainly didn't, and it was just such a great plot twist at the end of season 1. Where this show is going is phenomenal. It's such a great concept and it's just hysterical. This show is just working amazing. If you've watched this show, you understand that phrase, but yeah, no, it's a great show. At number 4, I have This Is Us. I've watched seasons 1 and 2 this year, and it's a show on NBC. Just a very emotional show, I have to say. I cry a lot watching this show. So with this show we follow 3 siblings that are the same age and the like ups and downs that they go through in their life, but we also see flashbacks that follow their parents and the ups and downs of their parents' lives as well. It's just a very authentic and real show about a family, and it's so emotional. There are a lot of like tender moments and a lot of really sad moments, but there are also a lot of really happy moments. It's so beautifully written and it's so authentically written as well, and the acting is just first class. First class acting that just I mean, Sterling K. Brown deserves that Golden Globe that he won recently for his role in this show. It's just a very warm and heartfelt drama that just kind of feels like I'm getting a warm hug whenever I watch this show. And I think it's why I care so much about these characters and am so invested in their lives. I just want them to be happy. It's a very emotional show, so get ready for an emotional roller coaster when you watch it. At number 3, I have Legion Season 1 on FX. I had not heard of this show until a coworker of mine was saying he's super excited for this show. And I was just like, oh, okay. Yeah, sure, I'll watch it, I'll give it a go. I don't usually pay attention to FX shows, but oh my god. This show was so good. This is a very hard show to describe because it's such a confusing show. We follow this guy David, who is in a mental institution because he sees things and does things that he's not sure if they're real or not. Then he gets broken out of that mental institution by like a band of rebels who all have superpowers. But there is also a demon living inside of him. I don't know if it's a demon per se, but it's something. Either way, it's the villain of the show, and it's inside of him, and they try to go through his mind and his memory to piece together all these different things to try and help get this demon out of him. But while on top of that, the government is also like tracking them down and trying to destroy them. The reason why it's so confusing though is not just because it's a confusing concept, but it's also because we see it through David's perspective, and his mind is a strange place to be. But it's just, even though it's confusing, it's so interesting and you can't help but just be engrossed in the show. And the visuals though, oh my god, it is another very like colorful show, but like a dark colorful show, and it's very trippy and just so artistic, and it's so well done that it just kind of helps sell the show even more. And the acting too, the acting is just so spot on, and the villain, oh my god, the villain I think is one of my favorite villains in a show I've seen. It's just so interesting to learn about this villain and watch this villain. I seriously highly recommend this TV show. It was really hard to choose between 1 and 2 just because I loved both of these so much, but for different reasons. But I eventually made my decision, and so at number 2 I have Riverdale on the CW. I watched seasons 1 and 2 this year. I'm gonna go as far as to say that this is definitely the most addictive teen drama on TV. I got so invested in this show, not just in the characters, but in the storyline and just the whole show in general. This is basically taking the Archie comics and making it super dark by adding a murder mystery. There's just so much happening in the show. There's so many different storylines to keep track of. There's so much drama between all the characters, and even just like drama happening in the town in general. It's just a lot going on, and it just keeps getting wilder and more bizarre. You just keep coming back for more and more because you just want to know. Every episode just keeps you guessing about who it is. And this is another show that has really dark lighting, which it helps enhance the dark storyline that we have going on, but it's also thrown in with some like neon lighting. And I don't think the acting is too bad either. I definitely think Cole Sprouse and Lily Reinhart give amazing performances, and the parents are played by some like veteran actors that are really great as well. It's just a lot of like very good looking, attractive men. That's another thing that sells it for me too. Are you excited for number one? If you've been watching my wrap-ups, you probably have an idea of what number one is. But that is Stranger Things seasons 1 and 2 on Netflix, and I did not think I was going to like this show as much as I did, but wowza, it is phenomenal. It's a very strange concept for a show, but it works. It's set in the 80s, and we have this young boy who just mysteriously vanishes into thin air, and we follow 3 different groups of people trying to find him. We follow his friends, we follow these teenagers who are basically like the siblings of the friends that are trying to solve it, and then we also follow the adults. We follow the boy's mom and the police officers. They're all trying to find out what happened to Will, and they stumble upon like government secrets and the paranormal, and even this like little girl who has like superpowers but also may have all the answers that they need. It's just such a good story, and the sets are very well done as well, and this also has very dark lighting, but again enhances the darkness of the show. It's not just a dark show, like it is a little bit on the horror thriller side, but it also is like a comedy. It's very paranormal. It's a coming of age story. I mean, there's a little bit of romance in there too. It's got a lot going on for it, but it all works perfectly well together, and like the mixture of all of them just goes perfectly together. But it's got a great script, and the music is so well done for this show too. It's so creepy yet so 80s. It's very cool. And the world is just so big, and you can't help but get like sucked in with this like world that they're in, and the world building too is just so great. And the acting, I was very surprised because I don't usually expect much from like child actors, but dang, they good. They're able to keep up with the adult actors too. Like they're on par with the adult actors. Everything about this show was perfect. So that is my top 10 TV shows of the year. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you're excited for next year, because I already am. And if you haven't already, please also go check out my top 10 books and my top 10 movies of 2017, and then also subscribe and like and all that good stuff. And I will see you guys later with another video.